As the famous proverb goes, better to be alone than in bad company. When it comes to living alone as an older person, this saying takes on a whole new meaning. In today's video, we're uncovering 9 surprising benefits of living alone in your later years, offering you a fresh perspective on a life that many find fulfilling and full of freedom. Whether you're already embracing solitude or simply curious about how it can enhance your well-being, this video will show you why living alone can be one of the most rewarding decisions you make. Far from being a lonely experience, living alone can bring a sense of peace, empowerment, and clarity that's hard to achieve in a shared space. We'll explore how you can enjoy more control over your daily routine, rediscover forgotten passions, and cultivate a deeper connection with yourself. These benefits might shift your mindset about aging and inspire you to see this stage of life with renewed excitement and confidence. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with others who might find it valuable, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you know experienced the joys of living alone? We'd love to hear your stories. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful content that helps you live life to the fullest, no matter your age. 1. Rediscovering yourself. Rediscover yourself when you're old. This might sound like an unusual invitation, but let's look at it closely. Living alone in your later years can be a profound experience. It's not simply about being by yourself or coping with solitude. It's about having the freedom, maybe for the first time in decades, to truly focus on who you are at your core. You are no longer bound by the roles you once played, whether as a parent, a partner, or even a caregiver. It's a unique opportunity to step into a new chapter where the spotlight turns back on you, inviting you to explore those forgotten parts of yourself that might have been overshadowed by life's demands. Think about someone like Emily. She had spent most of her life caring for others, but at 67, with her children grown and her husband gone, she found herself living alone for the first time. At first, the quiet was unnerving, but soon it became a canvas for self-reflection. You see, living alone offers you a kind of clarity that can be difficult to achieve in the busyness of a household. There are no distractions, no external demands pulling you away from yourself. Emily, after the initial discomfort of her newfound solitude, began to reconnect with a passion she had set aside many years ago, painting. When she picked up her brushes again, it was as if a part of her that had been dormant for years finally woke up. She turned a small and used room into her own art space, and day by day, she created. Can you imagine how liberating that must have felt? To revisit something you once loved, not because you had to, but because you wanted to, for no one's benefit but your own. That's what rediscovering yourself looks like, reclaiming those parts of you that might have been put on hold. But here's the thing, it's not just about hobbies. The act of rediscovery runs deeper. It's about reflecting on your life and recognizing how much you've grown, changed, and evolved. Living alone gives you the rare opportunity to step back and assess the choices you've made, the paths you took, and perhaps even those you didn't. Emily didn't just rediscover her love of painting. She found herself questioning aspects of her life she had never had the time or space to consider before. In her solitude, she began reading books on philosophy, something that had never interested her before. But now, with time and peace, she found new meaning in them. She started to explore Stoic teachings and realized how powerful the concepts of acceptance and resilience were in her own life. What's remarkable is that living alone opens up possibilities you might not have imagined. It's not a time to feel like life is behind you. It's a time to explore new interests and curiosities. Emily's journey of rediscovery didn't stop with painting or reading. She began traveling, something she had always dreamed of doing but never had the chance. She realized that there was still so much to experience, so much to learn. This is the beauty of living alone in your older years. It's not an end, it's a beginning. It's a time to rediscover passions and perhaps even unearth new ones. And there's more to it. This process of rediscovery often brings with it a newfound emotional clarity. You're no longer caught up in the whirlwind of meeting expectations or living by the standards of others. Living alone provides a kind of emotional freedom that's difficult to find when you're constantly surrounded by people and their opinions. For Emily, this meant letting go of her need to please others. She no longer worried about what others thought of her choices. Instead, she found peace in being comfortable with herself in her own company. This emotional clarity is one of the greatest gifts of rediscovering yourself later in life. Can we talk about how empowering that is? To feel comfortable in your own skin, not because others approve of you, but because you approve of yourself. Living alone can strip away the noise and reveal what truly matters to you. For some, it might mean revisiting an old passion like Emily's painting. For others, it might be as simple as taking long walks, enjoying the stillness of early mornings, or finally having the time to read those books you always wanted to. Rediscovery is not about proving anything to the world. It's about finding joy and contentment in what makes you uniquely you. Rediscovering yourself is also about understanding that life is a journey, not a destination. We don't stop growing because we reach a certain age. In fact, living alone can reignite that spark of personal growth. Emily discovered that her solitude allowed her to evolve in ways she hadn't expected. She became more confident, more self-assured, and more open to new experiences. This stage of life, living alone, is not about retreating from the world, but about stepping into it with renewed energy and perspective. We often underestimate the value of this phase of life. Society tends to focus on youth as the time of exploration and discovery. But what if we shift that perspective? Living alone when you're older can be just as, if not more, transformative. There's a richness in rediscovery that comes with age, a depth that only experience can bring. Emily's journey reminds us that we are never done growing, never done learning, and never done becoming who we are meant to be. If you find yourself living alone, see it as an opportunity, not a challenge. It's a chance to step away from the roles you've played for others and step into the person you are, and have always been. Rediscovery is about more than hobbies or activities. It's about reconnecting with your inner self, your values, and your purpose. It's about realizing that there's still so much to experience, and living alone gives you the space to do just that. Rediscovering yourself is a journey that never truly ends. Living alone, like Emily, gives you the freedom to keep exploring, to keep learning, and to keep finding new ways to express who you are. So embrace this time in your life. Rediscover the things that make your heart sing, and in doing so, you'll rediscover the most important person of all. To freedom and independence. Let us tell you a story that shows you the importance of freedom and independence. Picture this, John, a man in his 70s, standing at a crossroads after the passing of his beloved wife. He found himself in a space where his life could go in any direction, and for the first time in many years, that direction was entirely up to him. Freedom, in this case, wasn't just about where he lived, but about how he would shape the rest of his life. He decided to move into a smaller, more manageable home, a place where every choice, every detail, reflected what he wanted, not what others expected. Imagine for a moment what that would feel like, having the ability to choose without needing to compromise or explain your decisions to anyone else. We often underestimate the value of independence, especially as we age. In John's case, it wasn't just about choosing a house. It was about reclaiming a sense of agency that had been intertwined with family life for decades. When his wife was alive, the choices they made were joint decisions, always considering the other person's preferences. Now, John was faced with the freedom to design his life purely according to his own needs and desires. This isn't to say that living alone is without its challenges, but it offers something profoundly important: control over your time and space. John had spent much of his life accommodating others, as many of us do. There's beauty in that, in the give and take of relationships, but independence allows us to rediscover parts of ourselves that may have been set aside. The act of choosing a smaller home was symbolic for John. He wasn't downsizing his life. He was right-sizing it to fit this new chapter. In his new home, he found joy in the simplicity of daily choices. There was no need for grand plans or large gestures. His day was entirely his to shape. One day, John would wake up early and go for a walk at dawn. Another, he would stay in bed with a book until noon. There was no one to answer to, no schedules to keep but his own. He could cook or not cook. He could spend his time how he saw fit, and there was a deep, almost meditative peace in that. Now think about the power of shaping your environment exactly as you like it. Every picture on the wall, every piece of furniture in John's home reflected his taste, his comfort, his history. That's not something we always have the luxury of when we're sharing our lives with others. We adjust, we compromise. But in independence, there's a unique freedom to say, this is who I am, and this is how I want to live. John often remarked that one of the most surprising things about this stage of life was how fulfilling it felt to live without having to consider anyone else's preferences. I didn't have to think about what someone else wanted, just what I wanted, he explained. This wasn't set out of selfishness, but rather from a place of rediscovery. After years of sharing decisions with others, it was liberating to embrace choices that were purely his own. This sense of independence is about more than just physical space. It's about creating a life that is fully yours. For many, the idea of living alone can seem daunting or lonely, but in truth, it can offer a deep sense of connection with oneself. John's life didn't become smaller after his wife passed away. It became more focused. He filled his days with the things that brought him joy, without needing validation or permission from anyone else. As we reflect on John's story, there's a valuable lesson here about the importance of claiming our freedom and independence, especially as we grow older. It's not about isolation or detachment from others, but about giving ourselves the space to rediscover who we are when we're not trying to meet the needs of others. There's a quiet strength in that, a confidence that comes from knowing that we are capable of living life on our terms. In the end, independence isn't just about the absence of others in our day-to-day decisions. It's about the presence of our own voice, our own desires, and the freedom to act on them. John's journey reminds us that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is allowing ourselves the freedom to live authentically, without compromise. That kind of independence is not just a gift, it's a right we all deserve to claim. 3. Peace and quiet. The third idea we want to share with you today is one that grows in significance as the years go by: peace and quiet. These aren't just occasional pleasures. They evolve into essential parts of a fulfilling life. You see, in our younger days, moments of silence might be something we crave from time to time, but as we age, tranquility becomes an integral part of maintaining balance and well-being. It's about more than just physical stillness. It's about creating a space where your mind and heart can rest, free from the distractions and demands of others. The beauty of this is that when we live alone, we have the power to design our surroundings to suit our needs perfectly, nurturing our mental clarity, emotional resilience, and inner calm. When we mention the idea of living alone, we aren't suggesting isolation or loneliness. Instead, we're talking about the kind of solitude that gives you control over your environment, allowing you to shape your day with care and intention. Imagine waking up every morning, not to the noise of others or the rush of daily schedules, but to the sounds of nature, perhaps the soft chirping of birds outside your window, or the peaceful hum of the world before it fully wakes. There's a certain quiet in the early hours that sets the tone for the day, giving you the chance to pause, reflect, and embrace the calm. Maria, a 70-year-old widow, has mastered this art of tranquility. Her mornings are filled with a comforting silence that she cherishes deeply. "I wake up," she tells us, "and it's just the sound of the birds. No alarms, no one else's routine to accommodate." It's during these quiet moments that Maria feels most alive. She's not rushing through someone else's schedule, but instead, she's embracing the stillness that nurtures her spirit. For her, these peaceful hours are about more than just relaxation. They are essential for her emotional and mental health. The calm Maria experiences each morning gives her the opportunity to recharge. It's a time where she can gather her thoughts, realign her emotions, and mentally prepare herself for the day ahead. This kind of stillness offers her the clarity she needs, and in that clarity, she finds energy. There's a sense of restoration in silence, one that allows her to reconnect with herself and truly appreciate the moment she's in. It's not about escaping the world, but about finding a deeper sense of connection within herself, a practice that many of us can benefit from as we grow older. Living alone presents a unique advantage in creating such a peaceful environment. There are no interruptions, no competing noises, and no other schedules to work around. You have the liberty to foster the kind of quiet that suits your soul, whether that's complete silence or the gentle sound of nature. It's a sanctuary you create for yourself, one where your thoughts can flow freely, unburdened by the distractions or demands of others. And in this sanctuary, you begin to cultivate a deep sense of peace, both externally and internally. The peace that comes with solitude is invaluable. It allows you to center yourself, to be present with your thoughts, and to reflect on what truly matters in your life. Without the constant interruptions of daily life, you can focus on your own needs, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And in doing so, you create a balance that keeps you grounded. This sense of control over your environment extends to a sense of control over your inner world as well. You start to feel more in tune with your own rhythms, more aware of what brings you peace and what disturbs it. Maria's mornings are a testament to this. Each day begins with a sense of gratitude for the stillness around her. As she sits with her cup of tea, the world feels calm, manageable. In that quiet, Maria finds not just relaxation, but a deep-seated strength. The silence becomes a time for her to recharge, to gather her thoughts and emotions, and to prepare herself for the day ahead. It's a form of self-care that goes beyond the physical. This peace nourishes her spirit, allowing her to approach life with more patience and resilience. As we age, the need for this kind of tranquility grows. It's not just about finding peace in the absence of noise, but about creating a mental and emotional space where you can reflect, recharge, and reconnect with yourself. When there's no one else's routine to follow, you can listen to your own needs more attentively. You begin to notice what calms you, what energizes you, and what allows you to feel balanced. In this quiet, you discover a new level of self-awareness and appreciation for the small, peaceful moments. Living in a state of quiet doesn't mean withdrawing from life. On the contrary, it allows you to engage with it more fully. Without the distractions of others, you can focus on what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. The peace that fills your home becomes a reflection of the peace within you. And as this inner calm grows, it spills over into other areas of your life. Your interactions become more thoughtful, your responses more measured, and your overall outlook more serene. This tranquility, this quiet, is a gift that living alone can offer. It's a chance to reset, to recharge, and to reconnect with the person you are becoming. As we reflect on Maria's story, we see that it's not just about enjoying a moment of silence, but about building a life where peace and quiet are integral to your well-being. It's about finding strength in stillness and knowing that, in the quiet moments, you are giving yourself the space to grow, to heal, and to thrive. For control over your space. Your space to live is very important, not just in the physical sense, but also in how it shapes your mental and emotional state. When we think about living alone, the ability to control every aspect of your environment becomes a reflection of who you are and what you value most. Imagine stepping into a home that feels completely yours, a place where every object, every piece of furniture, every element speaks to your inner world. It's like your personal sanctuary, giving you the freedom to shape your surroundings in a way that truly nurtures your soul. This is not a small thing. It's a foundation of well-being, a source of mental clarity and emotional peace. Tom, at 68, discovered this after a major life transition. When his wife passed away, he moved into a small, minimalist apartment. It wasn't just a change in location, it was an expression of who he had always wanted to be. You see, for years, Tom had dreamed of a simpler, lighter space, one without the clutter of a busy life. "I always wanted a simple, clean space filled with light," he shared. Now, every corner of his apartment reflects that vision, bringing him joy and comfort every day. It's as if he's surrounded by an environment that mirrors the inner peace he's sought for so long. Control over your living space isn't just about furniture or design. It's about having the autonomy to create a world that feels right for you. For some, like Tom, this means minimalism and simplicity. For others, it might mean surrounding yourself with art, color, or the things that bring back fond memories. Emily, a 72-year-old woman who lives alone after her children moved out, turned her home into a vibrant gallery of her life's experiences. She filled it with paintings, travel souvenirs, and books that spark joy and inspiration. Every time she steps into her living room, she feels connected to her past, but also energized for the future. This power to shape your environment creates a unique connection between your physical and emotional space. Think about how often we overlook this aspect of our lives when we're busy with others. When living alone, there's a special opportunity to pause and ask, what do I want this space to say about me? How do I want to feel when I walk through the door? These questions open up a path to self-awareness and can dramatically improve your mental state. Living alone allows you to truly embody the life you want. Without the influence of others' preferences, you can choose the colors that calm you, the scents that comfort you, and the textures that soothe you. It becomes a reflection of your inner world, helping to ground you, especially in times of uncertainty. This is why control over your space is such a profound part of living alone. It gives you the freedom to be completely authentic in how you create and curate the world around you. Tom's journey toward minimalism was not just about making his apartment look neat. It was about stripping away distractions, both physically and mentally, to focus on what truly mattered to him. It's not just about what's in the room, he explained. It's about what isn't there. That emptiness, those clean lines and open spaces, offered him a sense of calm that had been missing during the busy years of his life. The simplicity of his space mirrored the simplicity he was searching for in his thoughts. Emily's home, on the other hand, is full of life and memories. Each piece of art or trinket tells a story. She described how her home became a reflection of her identity, not just her past, but her evolving sense of self. I may live alone, but I never feel lonely when I'm surrounded by pieces of my life, she said. Her home became her canvas, allowing her to express herself in ways she hadn't been able to while raising her family. What we often don't realize is how much our physical environment affects our mental health. A cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mind, while a well-organized, thoughtfully designed space can promote clarity, creativity, and relaxation. When you live alone, this connection becomes even more apparent. You have the freedom to create a space that supports your emotional well-being without needing to compromise or adjust for anyone else's preferences. This autonomy over your environment is incredibly powerful. It's a form of self-care that many don't fully appreciate until they experience it. Ultimately, having control over your living space is about empowerment. It's about recognizing that you are in charge of your environment and, by extension, in charge of your own peace of mind. For people like Tom and Emily, this realization brought them closer to themselves, allowing them to live with more intention and joy. When we understand the power that our space holds, we begin to see it not just as a physical location, but as an extension of our inner world, something that can either uplift us or weigh us down. And when you have the freedom to shape it according to your needs, you unlock a profound sense of contentment. So, as you think about your own living space, consider the possibilities. What could you change, remove, or add to make it more reflective of who you are or who you want to become? 5. Building a deeper relationship with yourself. You may understand your kids, your partner, but let us ask you something. Are you truly aware of your own self? It's a question that might catch you off guard because we're often so focused on the people around us. We make sure we understand their needs, their feelings, and their struggles. But how often do we pause and ask ourselves whether we truly understand our own thoughts, desires, and emotions? This is a conversation that many people avoid, but it's one of the most important you'll ever have with yourself. We're here to guide you through it. Let's take a moment to reflect on Gloria's story. Gloria, a 74-year-old widow, experienced something many of us fear, losing a partner after years of companionship. Her world didn't collapse, but it certainly shifted. At first, her solitude felt like a heavy burden, something unfamiliar and uncomfortable. She found herself sitting in silence, unsure of what to do with the sudden emptiness in her life. But with time, that very solitude became something else, a space for her to truly reconnect with herself. She began to understand that these quiet moments weren't about loneliness, but about rediscovering her own identity. The truth is, many of us spend our entire lives playing roles: mother, father, spouse, employee, each one demanding different parts of ourselves. But what happens when those roles change? When children grow up, when partners pass away, or when careers end? It's in these moments, like Gloria experienced, that we come face to face with the question, who are we without these roles? For Gloria, her journey through grief became a journey towards self-discovery. Alone, she began to realize that her own company was not something to fear. It became a source of strength. There's a critical difference between solitude and loneliness. While loneliness carries the weight of disconnection, solitude offers something precious, the chance to connect more deeply with yourself. Gloria didn't simply sit in silence. She embraced it. She started journaling, reflecting on her life, revisiting her past experiences, and slowly working through emotions she had long buried. This process wasn't easy, but it allowed her to heal in a way that wouldn't have been possible had she distracted herself with the chaos of life. Solitude for her became a mirror, showing her parts of herself she had never noticed before. The lesson here is simple but profound. Time alone is not wasted time. It's during these moments that you can finally pause, reflect, and begin to understand the complexities of your own heart. We often shy away from these moments because they force us to confront emotions we've avoided: grief, regret, fear, uncertainty. But without this confrontation, without giving yourself the chance to sit with these feelings, they remain unresolved. Gloria's story shows us that solitude is not about isolation. It's about creating space to process life's weight and allowing yourself to move forward with clarity. Let's talk about what it means to truly understand yourself. Just as you invest time and energy into knowing your partner, your children, or your friends, the same effort must be put into your relationship with yourself. It's in these quiet, reflective moments that you begin to uncover what you truly want, what you deeply fear, and what you've been holding on to for too long. Without these moments, you might go through life reacting to the world around you without ever really knowing why you feel the way you do. Understanding yourself is the foundation upon which all other relationships are built. As we revisit Gloria's experience, it becomes clear that this journey of self-discovery requires intentionality. It's not enough to sit alone and hope that answers will come to you. Gloria actively engaged with her solitude. She journaled, she reflected, she processed. This is the kind of deep work that leads to growth. You have to be willing to face the uncomfortable truths about yourself. It's in this space of discomfort that true transformation begins. And it's a process that brings a sense of peace and inner strength that nothing external can provide. We often avoid being alone because we're afraid of what we might find. We distract ourselves with work, relationships, or endless tasks, thinking that if we keep moving, we won't have to face ourselves. But as Gloria learned, it's only when we stop running that we can truly begin to understand the complexities of our own hearts. Solitude, when embraced, becomes a teacher. It teaches you patience, resilience, and most importantly, how to be at peace with yourself. It's in those moments that you realize the person you've been seeking all along is already within you. Now, ask yourself, when was the last time you gave yourself the time to simply sit and reflect? When was the last time you paused and listened to your own thoughts without distraction? It's easy to get caught up in the demands of daily life, to focus on everything happening around you. But if you don't give yourself the space to connect with your own emotions and desires, you risk losing sight of who you truly are. This connection with yourself isn't just a luxury. It's a necessity for growth, healing, and clarity. Gloria's journey reminds us that even in the most challenging moments, we have the capacity for growth. Her solitude allowed her to rediscover parts of herself that had long been neglected. She realized that healing comes from within, not from external distractions. Her time spent journaling, reflecting, and processing gave her the peace she had been searching for. This kind of peace is available to all of us, but only if we're willing to sit with ourselves, to face our truths, and to embrace the solitude as a gift, not a burden. So, as we conclude this conversation, take a moment to think about your own relationship with yourself. Are you truly giving yourself the time and space to reflect, to heal, to grow? Or are you filling every moment with noise and distraction? Like Gloria, you have the ability to find peace in solitude. All it takes is the willingness to sit with yourself, to embrace the quiet, and to begin the journey of truly understanding who you are. 6. Strengthening connections with others. And yes, keeping close connections with the people you care about can actually flourish when you live alone. It sounds ironic at first, but solitude often gives us the space to reflect on our relationships and appreciate them in ways we might not have before. When you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to take those interactions for granted. But living alone gives you time to miss people, to recognize their value in your life. Let's consider Joe's story. He's 72, retired, and recently moved to a new city. What could have been a lonely experience turned into something transformative. Joe began reaching out to old friends, and as he settled into his new surroundings, he built new relationships that felt more genuine, more intentional. His decision to connect wasn't driven by loneliness, but by a desire for meaningful companionship. This is the beauty of living alone. It allows you to choose your relationships with care. When we're constantly in the company of others, sometimes our connections feel more like obligations than choices. But in solitude, when you actively reach out to people, it's because you genuinely want to engage with them. The time you spend together feels more precious because you've made the conscious decision to connect. Joe experienced this firsthand. The friends he reconnected with, and the new ones he made, brought depth and richness to his life that wasn't based on convenience but on mutual appreciation. What's interesting is how living alone can actually sharpen your awareness of who really matters to you. When you're not swept up in the noise of daily interactions, you have the opportunity to think about the relationships you value most. Solitude becomes a lens through which you see your connections more clearly. It's like a mirror reflecting back the people who are truly important in your life. And when you do reach out, those connections feel different. They're more meaningful because they come from a place of reflection and understanding. Joe's relationships didn't just survive his move. They flourished, growing stronger as he reached out with intentionality. Now think about how this shift changes the quality of your interactions. When you live alone, each conversation, each moment spent with others becomes more mindful. You're fully present because you're not distracted by constant social interaction. This presence brings a new energy to your relationships. Joe discovered this as well. When he reconnected with his old friends, the conversations were deeper, more engaged. They weren't rushed or superficial. Instead, they reflected the value he placed on those moments, making his friendships more enriching than they had been in years. It's also worth noting that living alone gives you time to recharge, which can enhance your connections even further. In a world where we're often pulled in many directions, solitude provides the space to refuel emotionally and mentally. It's in this space that we learn to show up fully in our relationships, with more to give because we've taken the time to care for ourselves. Joe wasn't just maintaining friendships, he was investing in them with a clearer, more balanced perspective. His time alone allowed him to be a better friend, one who listened more attentively and engaged more thoughtfully. Solitude encourages us to seek out new connections that might not have emerged otherwise. When you're living alone, you become more open to meeting new people. Joe didn't just reconnect with old friends, he formed new friendships in his new city, relationships that enriched his life in unexpected ways. Living alone gave him the freedom to pursue these connections without feeling overwhelmed or obligated. Instead, these new bonds were formed naturally, through shared interests and experiences. Something that often surprises people, living alone can actually lessen feelings of loneliness. It's a paradox, but a real one. When you embrace solitude, you gain a sense of self-sufficiency that makes your connections with others even stronger. Joe's story illustrates this beautifully. He wasn't connecting with people because he needed to fill a void. Instead, he reached out because he valued those relationships and the sense of companionship they brought. This is the key difference. You're not seeking connections to combat loneliness, but to enrich your life with meaningful interactions. Living alone also gives you the chance to step back and evaluate your relationships from a distance. Without the constant presence of others, you have the freedom to assess what you truly want in your connections. This reflection leads to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Joe found that his friendships became more balanced because they weren't built on routine or expectation. Each interaction was intentional, thoughtful, and grounded in mutual respect. Living alone didn't diminish his relationships, it refined them, making them more authentic and rewarding. The impact this can have on your emotional well-being. When your relationships are chosen intentionally, they bring a deeper sense of fulfillment. Joe's connections became a source of joy, not obligation. He looked forward to conversations, to spending time with the people who mattered most, because those moments were filled with purpose. The solitude he embraced gave him a clarity to nurture the relationships that brought meaning into his life. In fact, it often opens the door to deeper, more meaningful connections with others. By embracing solitude, you give yourself the opportunity to reflect, recharge, and reach out with purpose. Joe's story is a reminder that living alone can enhance your relationships in ways you might never have expected. It's about choosing to connect from a place of love, respect, and genuine care, turning what could have been a lonely experience into one filled with rich, rewarding companionship. 7. The joy of solitude. You know, the most important thing you have to adapt and learn is to enjoy the solitude in your old age. Solitude, though often misunderstood, offers something precious that many overlook: space for self-reflection, for rediscovering who we are outside of our roles and responsibilities. As we grow older, the noise of the world quiets down, leaving room for something more peaceful, more enduring: the joy of being with ourselves. We've spent so many years living for others, family, friends, colleagues. But now we get the chance to live for ourselves, and that is not a burden. It's a gift. Now you might be thinking, but solitude feels lonely. It's true. The transition can be difficult, especially if you've spent much of your life surrounded by people. But think of it like this: solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of connection, but solitude is the presence of peace. It's in those quiet moments when you're sitting on your porch or taking a walk through the park, like Lily did after her husband passed, that you can start to notice things about yourself and the world that you might have missed before. The beauty of solitude is that it gives you the time and space to reconnect with parts of yourself that were overshadowed by the busyness of life. What Lily discovered, and what many people eventually realize, is that solitude doesn't mean emptiness. Instead, it allows for fullness of thought, of reflection, of insight. When she walked through the park, she didn't feel the need to fill her time with distractions. She embraced the moments of quiet as opportunities to reflect on her life, her joys, her hardships, and everything in between. Slowly, she started to feel a profound sense of peace. This is what we mean when we talk about the joy of solitude. It's not about isolation, but about learning to find fulfillment in being with yourself. We often assume that joy comes from external sources, other people, activities, or entertainment. But what happens when those things fade away? What happens when the children grow up, friends move on, or a partner passes? If we only know how to find joy in the presence of others, we're left vulnerable. But solitude teaches us that joy is not dependent on anyone or anything else. It's something we can cultivate within ourselves. Lily found her joy not through filling her time with activities or trying to constantly distract herself, but by embracing the stillness, by welcoming the quiet moments that allowed her to be fully present with her own thoughts. Imagine how freeing it must be to not need constant noise, to not feel the pressure of always being around others to feel whole. That's the essence of solitude. It grants you the opportunity to listen to your own voice, to reflect on your own journey, and to grow in ways that are deeply personal. When you're alone, there's no one else to define who you are, no one else to shape your experiences. It's just you, pure, authentic, and unfiltered. That's why we encourage you to find joy in these moments. They are a chance to reclaim your sense of self. And let's not forget, solitude offers you a chance to recharge. Think of how draining it can be to constantly be in the company of others, always having to engage, to please, to perform in some way. Solitude is the opposite. It's the time to step back and simply be, to rest, to breathe, to give yourself permission to slow down. We often associate productivity with being busy, but in your later years, productivity takes on a different form. It's about nourishing your soul, tending to your mental and emotional well-being. And solitude gives you the perfect environment to do just that. Lily's story isn't unique. Many people, as they grow older, find themselves living alone for the first time in years, maybe decades. At first, it can feel like a loss, but over time, solitude reveals itself as a gift. It's in these quieter years that we have the chance to appreciate life in a new way, to reflect on what we've lived, to savor the moments that have shaped us, and to prepare for what's yet to come. Solitude, in this sense, is a preparation for the next chapter, a time to gather strength, wisdom, and peace. What's beautiful about solitude is that it doesn't require anything from you. You don't need to do or be anything special to enjoy it. You simply need to allow yourself to sit with it, to lean into it. And once you do, you'll realize that solitude is not something to be feared, but something to be cherished. It's a time for you. A time to reflect, to heal, and to grow. So embrace solitude in your old age, not as a sign of loss, but as a time of discovery. Just like Lily found joy in her long walks and quiet reflections, you too can find joy in your own company. It's in these moments that life slows down enough for you to truly see it, to savor it, and to appreciate the journey you've been on. Solitude is not the end. It's the beginning of a deeper, more meaningful relationship with yourself. And in that, there is profound joy, a personal growth and reflection. Physically, you grow older, but mentally and emotionally, you continue to develop, often in ways you might not expect. When we think about living alone, it's not just a change in how you spend your days. It becomes an opportunity for deeper personal transformation. The silence, the stillness, it gives you room to reflect on who you are, and where you want to go next. Take Frank, for example, a man in his 70s who had never picked up a pen to write in his life. Yet when his wife passed away, he found solace in something new. He began writing, something he'd always dreamed of, but life had kept him too busy to pursue. Frank's experience reminds us that no matter how much time has passed, personal growth is always possible. He turned what could have been a time of sorrow into a season of self-discovery. At 70, with the weight of years behind him, Frank chose to step into a new passion. Writing became more than just a hobby for him. It became a way to process his thoughts, to sift through the layers of his life. Solitude often provides that chance to slow down, to listen to what's been bubbling under the surface for years. Imagine waking up in Frank's position. The house is quiet, the day is yours. There's no rush to meet anyone's expectations but your own. That kind of freedom can feel daunting at first, but it can also be the very thing that allows you to reconnect with parts of yourself that have been long buried under the noise of everyday life. Frank discovered that within his loneliness, there was an open door, a chance to finally listen to his own thoughts without interruption. What we can learn from Frank is that solitude can be a source of creativity, even in the later years of life. Writing gave him a way to process not only his grief, but also his journey through life. When you live alone, there's a unique opportunity to engage deeply with your inner world, free from the distractions of others' needs and expectations. This is the time to ask yourself important questions, ones you might have avoided or been too busy to explore earlier in life. Frank's decision to embrace writing wasn't just about the act of putting words on paper. It was about taking control of his narrative. He wasn't ready to let his story end with the passing of his wife. Instead, he saw it as a moment to begin a new chapter. This speaks to the larger idea that living alone doesn't have to mean loneliness. It can be a time of reinvention. Whether it's writing, painting, or even just sitting in quiet contemplation, this space allows for growth in ways that are deeply personal and enriching. Many of us fear growing older alone, imagining it to be a time of isolation. But Frank's journey shows us that this period of solitude can be a gift. Without the demands of a bustling household or the constant interaction with others, you have the chance to focus on your own desires and dreams. Frank didn't see his solitude as a burden, but as an opportunity, a time to nurture his creative spirit and bring something new into his life. This idea of ongoing personal growth, even as we age, is essential. Too often, we think that growth is something reserved for the young or for those in the middle of their careers. But Frank proves that living alone can actually provide the space needed to reconnect with yourself in a meaningful way. The absence of distractions gives you the freedom to finally prioritize what you want and need, allowing you to bloom in ways you hadn't considered. Frank's choice to start writing wasn't just about filling his time, it was about engaging with his past, present, and future. He used writing as a way to reflect on his life, process his feelings, and chart a new path forward. Living alone allowed him to step into this role with full attention, and through this process, he discovered new dimensions of himself. It's never too late to start something new, and solitude often gives you the focus to make that leap. What does Frank's story teach us in the end? It teaches us that life is constantly evolving, and so are we. Living alone can be a chance to reconnect with our deepest selves, to honor the dreams we've kept hidden, and to find new ways to express who we are. The solitude that many fear can actually be a time of empowerment, growth, and reflection, if we're willing to embrace it. 9. Embracing simplicity. The last thing you may see in every advice people give for older adults is the importance of embracing simplicity. Yet, this idea holds a certain power, one that many overlook. Simplicity becomes more than just an act of decluttering. It's a mindset, a way of living that brings peace and clarity to our days. We all know how life can get complicated, especially as we navigate years filled with responsibilities, obligations, and other people's needs. But when we live alone, something shifts. The focus turns inward, allowing us to strip away the excess and truly see what matters. It's not just about having fewer things. It's about living with intention and purpose. Let's talk about how this transformation unfolds. Take Helen, a 69-year-old retiree. She spent years raising children, managing a household, and accumulating more things than she ever thought possible. When her children finally moved out, Helen found herself living in a space that felt too large, too cluttered, and too disconnected from who she had become. So she made a decision that would change her life. She downsized. Moving into a smaller apartment, Helen wasn't just reducing the physical space she occupied. She was creating room for what truly mattered. She let go of the unnecessary and embraced the essentials: her health, her hobbies, her relationships. By simplifying her surroundings, Helen opened up space for growth, reflection, and joy. Now, what's striking about Helen's story is how familiar it feels. We may not all be at the same stage in life, but we understand the pull toward simplicity, don't we? Living alone, especially in our later years, offers a unique opportunity to reshape our daily routines. There's no need to accommodate the schedules or needs of others, no pressure to maintain appearances or hold on to things that no longer serve us. This freedom, though subtle, is deeply transformative. It's the freedom to focus on our own health, to cultivate hobbies we may have long ignored, and to deepen the relationships that truly matter. You see, simplicity isn't just about reducing, it's about refining. When we live alone, we get to decide how we spend our time, where our energy goes, and what we prioritize. Think about that for a moment. We're no longer caught in the whirlwind of other people's expectations. Instead, we have the chance to listen to our own desires and needs. And that's a rare gift. It's the ability to craft a life that reflects who we are now, not who we were or who others think we should be. This is why simplicity holds such power. It allows us to be fully present with ourselves, to appreciate the peace that comes from clarity. The emotional benefits? Simplicity, when fully embraced, offers a sense of peace that goes beyond the material. It reduces the noise in our minds and hearts. We no longer have to juggle multiple roles or keep up with the fast pace of a life filled with too many obligations. Instead, we can focus on nurturing the things that bring us joy: our health, our passions, and our most meaningful relationships. Helen's story reminds us that by letting go of the unnecessary, we create space for the truly important. Living alone in your later years, in particular, gives you the chance to appreciate this simplicity on a deeper level. It's not about loneliness or isolation. It's about reclaiming time and space for yourself. It's about finding contentment in the little things, like a quiet morning cup of coffee or an afternoon spent painting or reading. And more importantly, it's about recognizing that this lifestyle, while different from the hustle and bustle of earlier years, is full of richness and opportunity. If you're already living alone, take a moment to consider the ways simplicity has shaped your life. How has this freedom allowed you to focus on what truly matters? Are you finding joy in the quiet moments, in the things that bring you peace and satisfaction? If not, there's still time. There's always time to reevaluate, to simplify further, to let go of what no longer serves you, and embrace a life that feels more aligned with your true self. And if you're considering living alone, know that you're about to embark on a journey that offers immense satisfaction. It's a chance to reset, to build a life that revolves around your needs and desires. It's a path toward deeper self-awareness, personal growth, and contentment. Yes, it's a lifestyle of freedom, but it's also one of peace and fulfillment. Embracing simplicity doesn't mean losing anything. It means gaining everything that truly matters. In the end, simplicity is not just an external practice. It's a way of being. It's about living with clarity, with purpose, and with an appreciation for the present moment. So, whether you're living alone now or considering it for the future, know that simplicity has the power to transform your life. It gives you the freedom to focus on what's truly important, to live in a way that brings you peace, and to enjoy the beauty of life, just as Helen discovered.